Good morning, everybody. This is Greg Richards, Vice President of Industrial Sales here at Northeast Electrical Distributors. I'd like to welcome you to our November 2017 product update. Many of us just got back from Automation Fair last week in Houston, which was a great event, and we thought we would share some of the new product introductions that Rockwell Automation will be making in the industrial control, sensor, and safety product families. So I'd like to welcome everybody this morning, and I'm going to turn it over to Dave Champion, our industrial control, sensor, and safety specialist, one of our team members here from Northeast, who's going to be your host for today's YouTube live stream. So with that, Dave,
thank you.
Take it over.
Thank you. This is Dave Champion. As he said, I'm the industrial control, safety, sensor, and vision product specialist. I'm half of the team. The second half of the team is Craig Charest. You may have interfaces with either of us, and both of us can help you with any of these products. I'm going to try and go through a list of new releases. Typically at the Automation Fair, they save a lot of products to release them at that time. So I'll give you an overview. It won't be in detail. If you need details, feel free to contact me, chat in the questions, email me, and we can send out information or provide a demonstration. So first, let's start the first of the three segments, the industrial control segment. A little overview here. We have actually a new line of terminal blocks I'll talk about. We have a non-fused UL98 disconnect switch. I'll get into details there. Kind of a major announcement, another new line of large frame contactors above 100 amps, and a couple of smart starters, starting torque controller. That may ring a bell with some of you that have been around for a while. It was a product that Rockwell once had, and a change and an addition to the SMC50 smart controller line. But first, let me go for the terminal blocks. In this case, we already have two lines of terminal blocks. We have a screw-type terminal block and a spring clamp terminal block. At the show, it was announced that we're adding a third, hopefully a terminal block line that will save you time, space, and money. But it's called the push-in technology. It's a little bit different from the spring clamp. A little bit different in that it doesn't need a tool to insert the wire. So as you can see, along with actually being a little different, it's like the spring clamp in that it is vibration proof, something that screw terminals don't really offer. In this case, the time that you save wiring could be up to 50%. So that's a major difference in the technology. It will accept actually all the wire types. As you can see on the screen, solid and ferrule is a direct insertion. If you do have stranded wire that you may have used a tool for in the spring clamp type, you can use a tool here to open up the clamp and use that also. And lastly, it talks about the plastic actuators. If you want to disconnect the wire, you can. There's a plastic actuator, so you really don't have to touch any live parts when you're doing that. Couple of different types of the plug-in. The universal is kind of standard offering, things that you see every day in the other two lines, standard single, double, and triple, and even quad level terminal blocks. But one of the real special things is some of the specific, application specific, particularly control power distribution. You'll be able to use these blocks for a very compact power distribution scheme, and sensor blocks.
One thing, Dave, on those terminal blocks, I think ideally, really to achieve that 50% savings, I believe it's really recommended using ferrules on those wires, correct? To really get the best benefit of the push-in technology?
Absolutely, and I find more and more control panel shops nowadays are using ferrules. There's a lot of great reasons to do that, and actually we have an Encompass partner, Panduit, that's providing some really cool ferruling equipment.
Excellent.
Another product, it may sound like something we already have, but it's the 194U. It's a non-fused disconnect switch. As many of you are aware, we have a 194R, which is a UL98, usable as a main device in a panel disconnect. They have it in fused and non-fused. However, the 194U, while it's always a non-fused option, is significantly smaller, less expensive, and provides a variety of mounting options. So in this case, we have a 30, a 60, and a 100 amp version in the UL rated style. Differentiators, really small footprint. This is something we've looked for a while. Obviously, if you need branch circuit protection, you'd use this along with some fusing. And again, it's a UL98 disconnect, unlike the 194Es and Ls. You can get more information on that, but a lot of new advantages to that, something we've been waiting for quite a while.
Right, so this product would also be used in a UL 5088 panel.
Absolutely, it's required as
Exactly.
a main in a UL 5088 panel.
Exactly.
Next, kind of a big announcement. Rockwell has had for a while a number of different contactor lines, particularly once you get above about 97 amps with the 100C. We've had the 100D line, the 100G line. We've had options in the Bulletin 300 IEC NEMA rated line, and obviously the Bulletin 500, 509 stuff, the NEMA stuff that's been around for a while. But above 100 amps, we're introducing the new 100E line, which is pretty impressive. A lot of advantages, and not the least of which is consolidating down the portfolio. Another huge advantage is smaller footprint. This is something that's always important to a panel builder, saving size in the panel. Universal electronic AC and DC coil is awesome. This is going to allow for not only a simpler stocking, fewer parts to stock, but it's very important nowadays with PLCs and safety relays trying to interface to these that the coil current be low. So this has a 10 milliamp, 24 volt DC coil current. IEC solutions up to 2650 amps, so it's larger than we've really ever gone in a low voltage contactor. Safety rated versions up through 750 amps. Another major advantage beside the size is we have great short circuit coordination information and fitting to line up with our 100G thermomag 140G thermomag breakers and the MG motor breakers. Again, direct connection kits not only to those, but to the solid state overload family. Again, major change in the lineup, but something that's going to bring a lot of benefits to not only us, but our customers. Next, couple of entries into the smart motor controller line. This is an overview of our lineup from very small and simple solid state contactors, the Bulletin 156, all the way up through our sort of premier SMC 50, all solid state smart motor controller, soft starter, if you will. In this case, we have two new members of the family. You can kind of see the performance and price matrix there. But on the lower end, something that Rockwell had many years ago and hadn't really offered for a while is a simpler device, a starting torque controller. And you see that in the circle there, 154s. And they've actually done a new flavor of the SMC 50, the smartest of the smart motor controllers. The starting torque controller is a small, simple device. As you can see, it's not really very large. It's meant for limiting the torque to starting a motor on smaller horsepower loads. You can see up to about 3 horsepower single phase. They do a two-phase, well, it's a 3-phase starter with 2 phases controlled up to about 20 horsepower. Again, much lower starting point than the SMCs. And one of the big advantages, you can combine that with one of our motor protective circuit breakers, one of our 140Ms. They have a great little connection kit there, and provide in a very small space at a very good value point, a soft start alternative to a full voltage contactor. You get your overload protection and your short circuit protection in the 140M. The SMC 50 With internal bypass, some of you may have remembered the SMC 50 having been introduced a couple of years ago. It was replacing a much older device in what they call the true solid state starter line, as opposed to a hybrid that typically uses an internal contactor to short out the SCRs after it starts up. The SMC 50 has incredible performance based on the high performance processor it uses and the firmware inside. And while it's always been only solid state, they've introduced that brain onto a hybrid power structure, giving us options with the SMC 50 to have full solid state or internal bypass. Depending on the application and the price point, that could help you make the decision. That's kind of the roundup of industrial control. Just a little bit on sensors here. A lot of sensors were either introduced in Houston or had been recently introduced to complement what we call our smart sensing line. It's important, particularly these days, that the sensor not only perform its basic function in automating a machine, but allow you to get the information in the sensor up into the architecture. So that's a major push with Rockwell, as you'll see. And one of the ways they do that is with the recently released IO-Link. So a lot of the additions are new sensors enabled with IO-Link. Here's an example of an architecture and how you can connect to the enterprise. Really, with the enterprise up on the top tier there, to give you the data collection and visualization, there's two streams that could come up depending upon the sensor. We have IO-Link, which is more for simpler sensors. It uses the embedded technology through an IO-Link master. We have a couple of flavors of that, and brings that up through Ethernet IP into the architecture. And then for maybe more complex sensors, things like encoders and our barcode readers and something like that, we have a direct Ethernet IP enabled device. So two streams all coming up to a central location. Some of the new sensors that they have introduced recently is the 872C inductive line. That's been around for a while, but it's been enhanced. The 871TMs, they have been IO-Link enabled to offer you a proximity option. The 871FM is a small flat pack sensor, new design, IO-Link, auto PNP, NPN, so it just saves a lot of stocking, and it's a great option for proximity sensing. And they've enabled the 837T, the temperature smart sensor with IO-Link. Our pressure version, the 836T E already had that. They've added in a new armor block IO-Link master for on-machine as opposed to in-panel IO. Small diameter sensors. We have a brand new barcode reader, the 48CR, being released again on an Ethernet IP connection. And lastly, but not least, we've had some great ultrasonic sensing options, but now they've introduced the 873P in a IO-Link enabled form. On to a quick overview of some of the safety stuff. A lot of new and exciting safety options coming from the Chelmsford organization. And again, the theme here is, like with our sensors, smart safety. It's not enough that a safety device just perform the safety function. To really be of greater value, it has to get the information up to the architecture. It has to have the information available. So a lot of these devices, as you'll see, have a couple of different ways to do that. In terms of just overall introductions, we've got GuardLink, which is one of those enabling technologies. The 450L B and E light curtains will be highlighted a little bit later. SafeZone 3 is a new scanner option, and the MAB multi-function access box, now with Ethernet technology. This may look a little similar to the smart sensing slide, and it is, because we also with safety have a couple of different funnels to get the information up to the architecture. As you can see over on the left, it's this new GuardLink, which is an enabling technology not only to perform the safety function, but collect diagnostics and other data from the safety devices through a series of smart T's at the moment. And on the right, you see things like the MAB, the light curtain SIP safety, the safety scanner SIP safety. Those are a little bit more complex devices. And what they're doing is bringing the information up directly on Ethernet IP. So it's kind of a dual track with the same destination. A couple of new things in safety. The latest and greatest add-on profile for Logix, well, for Studio 5000. In this case, as you can see, they highlight up in the upper left-hand corner, the CR30, that's a configurable modular safety relay. And this AOP, add-on profile, enables us to be the only real manufacturer that can accept a download or online monitoring over Ethernet. And it enables the CR30 to truly be a part of the premier integration story. A new line of an old device, cable pull switch, kind of old, traditional. A lot of people out there have them. This is the very first solid state cable pull switch. Instead of a snap switch or a switch embedded in the device, it actually uses strain gauge technology. So it's fully solid state. There really are no moving parts. It's got the highest TUV safety ratings, but it gives us a whole lot of benefits. Temperature compensation, it allows us to go up to 100 meters worth of cable, quite a span. It's got a lot of indication, built-in margin indication, which is going to help in things like setup and downtime. Wide operating range. The LEDs on there are visible 270 degrees, so very easy to see. And it comes in a couple of flavors, a stainless steel for food and bev in some of those industries, and an aluminum bodied version, one of which actually has a e-stop built in. So again, just an overview. If you need more information, by all means, either chat in or give us an email. GuardLink is the technology that I've mentioned earlier. It's an enabling technology that allows a relatively dumb safety device, even though they show some pretty smart sensor guard switches on the slide here, but it can interact through a smart T, if you will, shown mid-page. And what that does is it allows the device to send back not only the safety string, which would normally be a couple of normally closed contacts, but also diagnostics information. And if you see down below the safety controller that it's coming back to, device number 1 and number 2, what you're using is basic standard sensor cable, 4-conductor cable, 24 volts plus and minus, well, 24 volts plus and common, and one line for the safety signature that combines the safety contacts, or OSSDs, and one command line, which is kind of nice because the command line not only allows you to monitor the devices on the link, which can be up to actually 32, but it supports diagnostics, remote resets, and locking commands, for instance, for a locking guard switch or a door switch. SafeZone 3, a brand new scanner to add to our lineup with a whole bunch of advantages. The biggest maybe of which is SIP safety. As I mentioned, the more complex products we're trying to bring up to the architecture on a Ethernet IP platform, and SIP safety allows us to actually control and monitor the scanner over Ethernet, saving tons of wiring. The multi-function access box. This is a device that combines, as it said, multi-functions. It's a guard monitoring switch. It's a guard locking switch. It's a handle. It provides operator inputs and outputs, e-stops, maybe requests to enter, resets, that kind of thing. And while it's been available for a while as a hardwired device, it's now available with SIP safety, Ethernet safety. So instead of all the wiring, you run 24 volts and an Ethernet cable and bring that back to the architecture. And now I'm going to switch over a little bit here and talk about the light curtains. I've got a little bit of a animation that I'd like to bring up. And let's see, make sure we get that muted. All righty. And let me see if we can start from the beginning. There we go. All right. What this animation is going to do is give you a real good feel for the new light curtain, the 450L. In this case, the 450LB, which is the basic version, as opposed to the E, which is enhanced. Here is the basic starting block, and this may look like a receiver or a transmitter stick, but it is actually a transceiver stick. This is a device that can be either a receiver or a transmitter in the same hardware. It comes in either a 14 millimeter or a 30 millimeter resolution, and it gains its functionality, or it learns its functionality from a plug-in module. In this case, a plug-in module with a series of dip switches that can help configure this stick so that once inserted, it teaches the light curtain housing to be either a transmitter or a receiver. A couple of formats for this. There's a simple 5-pin connector for that plug-in, or an 8-pin with more functionality. There's also kind of a unique universal plug-in. Again, one of the advantages of this new design is it enables less stock. It enables you to keep a spare stick, make it a transmitter, or make it a receiver, but there's a universal plug-in that will allow it to be either a transmitter or a receiver, depending how it's wired. So you can back up your machine with very, very little extra stock. So advantages: faster installation, reduced maintenance, and certainly reduced stock. Again, this family is going to be comprised of really two lines, the basic B and the enhanced line. It's relatively small, 30 millimeters square, and actually starts at 6 inches, roughly 150 millimeters, and goes up to 1950 millimeters, so a little bit over 6 foot. So there's a variety of sizes in either the 14 or 30 millimeter resolution. Mounting is kind of unique too. In this case, they can mount with a top and bottom bracket. Those just screw on, and those actually come with the light curtain stick. There's also a side mount option. This is really kind of nice because it allows mounting in difficult areas. Both of these methods actually allow you to swivel a little bit to align them, but by having a side mount, you can actually use the benefit of full coverage from top to bottom to mount these in places that you otherwise might not have. Indication is done by LEDs on the side. In this case, statuses, whether it's a receiver or a transmitter. If beams are broken, it will show you which section the beams were broken in. And there is an optical interface that will allow you to go ahead and communicate with the light sticks, configure or whatever. This is a USB and works in conjunction with the CCW, Connected Components Workbench software. And it does have end-to-end sensing, kind of unique in the family of light curtains that we already have. Resolution is ideal for hand or finger. And obviously, since that's the case, it's also a full body intrusion or full body sensor also. Two LEDs, again, differentiate the intrusion area. So it's very flexible, very expandable. A couple of quick notes. Let me just pause that. A couple of quick notes. The basic version has basic functionality, but the enhanced version, which has just been released, uses a different plugin to provide a lot more functionality, but only the amount of functionality you need, only the amount of functionality you want to buy. So things like muting can be built in, blanking. We have cascading options, a very, very flexible configurable line. And I think that's about it. I do have a couple of samples right here, if you can see me now. I have on the desk some of the smaller units. I just wanted to show beyond the animation. This is the 150 millimeter version. In this case, it is a 30 millimeter resolution. This one has its plugin installed. This is the plugin that actually goes in, and you can see some dip switches. I think you can see some dip switches on the side there. A basic raw unit, as you can see, the protective film hasn't even been pulled off, but this is a small version. And again, once the plug is removed, the plug-in can go there. And the mounting brackets that come with it as standard are the top and bottom mounting brackets. The side mount bracket is optional. Probably in most cases, those would suffice. So that's the line. The new Rockwell safety colors. If you see red and gray, you know it's a Rockwell Automation safety product. The other thing, since I did have just a second here, I did want to bring up, these are some of the distribution terminal blocks in the new push-in line. You can see a lot of wire connecting capability in a very, very small compact area. Again, I hope it wasn't too quick on any of these devices. We can provide a lot more information, demonstrations, or whatever. I want to thank you for tuning in, however. And if you have any questions beyond the chat, email Dave Champion, dave.champion@needco.com.
Dave, we did have one question on the chat. Back to the 100E about the universal coil voltage. The question was it 24 volt AC, 24 volt DC? What's the voltage rating on that universal coil? Do you know?
The voltage range is actually, I'm going to have to double check that. I believe it's 120 volts all the way down to about 24 volts.
AC or DC? Yeah. Oh, wow, that's quite a range.
So that'll, again, keep stocking to a minimum too. No more coil changes.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dave. I'd like everybody, thank everybody for joining us today. And like Dave mentioned, any further questions, make sure you email them in, or always you can visit. If you want any contact information for any of our team, you can just head over to needco.com/industrial, and you'll be able to find all the product lines that we offer, as well as contact information for our specialist team. So thank you everybody for joining, and have a great Thanksgiving.